Today in my very messy workshop I'm going to be reviewing this, the FeiyuTech G6 Max, specifically looking at how well it works with the Sony ZV1. This is the Sony ZV1 and it's probably my favourite camera that I've bought recently because it's just so unbelievably compact, but yet it's so powerful just in such a small package. I've added a little L bracket wooden handled mine, which I think makes it much nicer to handle. Link below if you want to get one of those for yourself. But one of the big criticisms of this camera is that the active stabilization, while actually pretty good, when it's switched on, it crops in that 24mm focal length to about 33. So if you want to get nice steady shots, you are going to lose a bit of your focal length. Personally, I found ways to work around that for most of the time, but sometimes you just want something that's going to stabilize it. And in that case, you want a gimbal. So today I'm going to be looking at this, which is the FeiyuTech G6 Max, which is a hybrid gimbal specifically designed for smaller cameras and even smartphones, and actually, as we'll test, slightly bigger cameras as well. The controls for the gimbal are all down here. You've got your trigger button here, which resets it, and then on the other side, you've got an LCD to show you all of your other options as well. Now, this is really just a quick overview review of this gimbal. I'm not going to go into crazy in depth, but let's be honest, most of the time you use this, you're just going to use it in the standard mode to stabilize the camera. So how well does this actually stabilize the camera compared to just holding it? Well, I went out and shot some tests and here they are. So first of all, we're going to look at the camera on its own. Here is the camera handheld while running without any stabilization on whatsoever, which is pretty terrible, absolutely terrible. Okay, and here it is with the active stabilization on. It's better, but it's still not great, and I will point out, if you're walking with the ZV1 and you're using the active stabilization, and you're really smooth at walking, you can actually get pretty good results from it, but let's see the difference that comes into play when the gimbal is involved. So this is the camera with the stabilization switched off, so you're getting that full 24mm wide field of view on the gimbal and running. That's a big difference compared to what it's like completely on its own handheld. Now you can still see you get a little bit of shake there, which to be honest is typical of really small and light setups because it can't correct for that vertical jitter that's going to be in your hands. If this was much heavier, that would be a lot smoother. So that's one of the trade-offs of using a really light camera system and a light gimbal like this. It's pretty much got all the standard gimbal features, so by default what it'll do is it'll follow your movements, but it'll lock the tilt. So you can see I rotate right, it rotates right, I go left, it goes left. I tilt, it keeps it pointing forward. This is good if you want to do like a crane shot. You can start down low and then raise the camera up and it'll keep pointing at the subject. If you then tap the button on the right, it puts it into lock mode, and this means it locks all axes. It doesn't matter what way I twist here. See that? It's fully locked. If you double tap, it puts it into this full follow mode where it will follow in all directions. See that? I tilt up, it tilts up. I turn sideways, it goes sideways. It's got this multifunction trigger at the front, which by default, if you press and hold it, will just speed up how fast it reacts and turns around. So a double tap will reset the camera to the default position. Triple tap will put the camera into selfie mode, where it's now pointing at your face, and double tap will put it back again. It's got this little joystick here, which you can use to control the camera. So you can use that for panning. You can tilt up, you can tilt down. That's quite nice if you're wanting to just do a really nice panning shot. It's got full 360-degree rotation, so I could just hold and that will rotate forever. You can also go in and speed that up, so you can change the settings and how fast that'll spin around. It's also got a couple of other interesting modes. It's got Inception mode, where you can hold it like this horizontally. It'll point the camera forwards, and it'll spin the camera while you walk or while you hold it, which lets you get shots like this. And it's got a time-lapse mode where you can preset a route of direction that you want the camera to move in while it's shooting a time-lapse. You can get these really nice moving time-lapses. Features are all well and good. All that really matters at the end of the day is that you can get good final sequences out of this. So here's that quick montage again of footage that I've taken using this setup. Okay, so in my opinion, this works great as a gimbal for the ZV1. Now, what about other cameras? What about our cameras? Well, let's go all the way up, because this will allegedly balance up to 1.2 kilos. I've got an A7 Mark III here with a 55mm f1.8 lens. It looks ridiculously big compared to the gimbal. Let's see if this can balance it. Works. That is quite impressive, because that camera looks absolutely massive compared to that gimbal. Let's see if I shake it around a bit. Shake it around a bit, what if I... Yeah, see? That is impressive. That's balancing a Sony A7 Mark III with a 55mm lens in the front, which weighs just over 1.2 kilos. This is over what this is supposed to be able to balance. So yeah, and it works. It does balance it, and that's totally usable with that tiny little gimbal. I wouldn't want to try running with it or doing anything where you require like really complex movements, but for stuff where you just need like a walking shot or something, that totally works. I am impressed with that little gimbal. And then, not only that, not only is it going to balance a big camera like this, it also comes with this, which is a mount for your phone. So this is a hybrid gimbal, so this will, you can put your phone in this, attach that to the plate, and you can use it as a phone gimbal. And not only that, also comes with this, which is a little GoPro standard mount for mounting a GoPro on it. So this will balance everything from a GoPro, a smartphone, Sony ZV1, to the A7 Mark III with a small lens. I'm impressed. Now, it does also come with lots of cables, and depending on what camera you have, you can set it up. So you can use these camera controls on here. You can start recording, stop recording. I think you can use this to zoom in and out. I never use those features because I just find them a nuisance to set up. Usually, especially with a small gimbal, I guess I just want to set up and go. But those options are there, but go and check and see if it works with your camera. I tried it with the ZV1, didn't work because I don't think it's updated yet, but I think it should work with something like the A7 Mark III that's been out for longer. There's one thing with this gimbal that I don't like, and that is how the gimbal locks, these like tightening knobs here, work. It's a little hard to grip at times. If your hands are a bit damp or sweaty, it can be difficult to operate those. And then the other thing that happens is if you accidentally tighten them in the wrong direction, which I've done more than a few times, they get stuck and it's really hard to shift them again. But you could say that's down to user error, and that's so far as that's the only issue I've had with this little gimbal.